Welcome. Let's talk about the Washington Capitals offseason. Now, it's a new series I just started with the Winnipeg Jets yesterday. I'm obviously shooting all 31 NHL teams in reverse, alphabetical order. And the next team I'll be shooting will be the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of shooting going on. Now, the cap's going to be $81.5 million for next season, and maybe a couple after that as well. The Capitals have about $10 million in cap space at the moment. But it's not like they can just go ahead and spend the whole thing, because after next season, they have a couple of big UFAs coming up, and I'm talking about Alex Ovechkin and Jacob Vrana. Now, yes, Ovi is already making, just over $9.5 million. He'll require at least a little bit of a raise. Perhaps he'll take a haircut for the team in order to keep the Stanley Cup window alive. Jacob Vrana, she's probably going to require at least a $2.5 million raise. So they can't just go and throw it all this season. They have to juggle a few things around. What happened in the playoffs? They lost to the Islanders in that series 4-1 and had a bit of problem scoring goals, had a bit of problem playing some defense. And really, they just looked exceptionally slow out there. So what did they do? They went and fired the coach. That should help a few things. Nothing has been the same ever since Barry Trotz left, especially getting Ovi to back check. But let's start off with the goaltending and what's going to happen there. English. Braden Holtby is going to be a UFA. Obviously, he's 30 years old. He's making $6.1 million. He's walking. He's going to ask for too much money. They can't afford him. Besides, they've got Ilya Samsonov on the burner as the next big thing. Now, he played 26 games this past season with a .913 save percentage. He was injured for the playoffs, unfortunately, so they couldn't test him out there. Holtby did okay. In the playoffs, he had a .906 save percentage, but really you can only blame so much on him. During the regular season, though, he had an .897. He's definitely been, teetering off in the past 2, maybe even 3 seasons here, ever since they won the Cup. So, I don't think they're going to bring in another rookie to back up another rookie. Do you? So, although they have another interesting prospect in Vitek Vanecek, if I'm saying that correctly, a 24-year-old. I don't think that's happening. So let's look to the UFA market and see what's available there. They can't spend too much money, so they're not looking at starting goaltenders like Crawford or Leonard or Markstrom. So get that out of your head. Then there's some mid-tier guys who might be a bit too expensive for them, but would be perfect, like Thomas Greiss or Anton Hudobin. So who else is there that might be a bit less expensive, not quite as good, but possibly could have a rebound year? And I'm talking about Cam Talbot. Could be a prime candidate for that. Someone even slightly cheaper, Aaron Dell. He could be a possibility as well. Moving on, let's talk about the defense and what's happening there. So, they have 2 UFAs and 1 RFA. Radko Gudas, the right shot defenseman, he's probably walking. He's kind of already alluded to that, to the fact. He is a defensive defenseman who you have to keep your head up for when he's on the ice. He's going to require a bit of a raise, maybe at least around $1.5 million more. And he wasn't happy with his ice time in Washington. Then there's Brendan Dillon, the left shot defenseman, who played well with Carlson because Carlson isn't good at playing defense, although he's godly putting up points, isn't he? He had, 70, where's my numbers here? 75 points this season. And the next best defenseman was Orlov with 27. And then after that, it kind of falls off even more. So they need someone who can transition the puck. They need more guys like that, who they might be able to get from their youngsters. And I'm talking about the RFA Jonas Siegenthaler, if I'm saying that properly. He's 23 years old. They can probably sign him to a nice little tidy bridge deal. Then there's Martin Fevery, who actually played about, I want to say, 6 games during the regular season, 2 games during the playoffs. He's 20 years old, left shot. He could be a nice fit to make the team next year. And then there's Alexander Alexiev, another possibility, or even Lucas Johansson, who's 22 years old, 6'2". Alex, by the way, is 20 years old and 6'4". He's their second overall ranked prospect by the Hockey News. Lucas is 5th, and Martin Favre is 3rd. Now that I've confused you, they still have this issue where they're going to need another veteran blue liner who can transition the puck yet not be a complete defensive liability, put up maybe anywhere from 20 to 30-ish points to help out. I don't see them signing that guy unless they get rid of at least or trade away one of either Michael Kempfy, who hasn't been the same since his injury just before the playoffs last season. I believe it was his Achilles heel. He's 29 years old, making $2.5 million for 2 more seasons. They could probably easily trade him away. I think they scratched him for 2 games during the playoffs as well. They could probably easily trade him away for a mid to high round draft pick as a sort of a salary dump. So that's a possibility. Or maybe you keep him, hopefully, and thinking that, with a full summer of proper rehab, and for him to train, he can come back and he's capable of putting up around 20 points. And you think of trading Dmitry Orlov, that right shot defenseman. He's also 29 years old and in decline, but he makes so much more money, $5.1 million for the next 3 more years. I think I just walkened out there for a second. For those of you older who know what that means. Christopher, I mean. In any case, that means they could hit the UFA market with a little bit of cash to spend, and not have to worry about signing Verana and Ovi for next season. So let's look at some UFAs. There's not too many guys who really fit that bill. The ideal candidate might be T.J. Brody, but some other names we throw out there. Justin Braun, yeah, I know he's a little old, but he's can put up around 20 points. He's definitely more of a depth guy, whereas, Brody can be a second pairing, perfect second pairing. But then there's also Joel Edmondson, who might be more appropriate as well. He's also capable of putting up 20 points. He's 27, left shot. Definitely could slide into that second pair unit as well. So some food for thought there. Now, let's move on to the forward group here. And there isn't much in terms of guys who need to be signed. There's one RFA, that's Travis Boyd. He's 26, plays center right wing. A very slight raise for him on a bridge deal. I think that'll happen there. And then there's UFA Ilya Kovalchuk, and that's it, right? So if they can keep Kovalchuk for next to nothing, and maybe he wants to take a shot at another cup, that's a possibility. I do have a feeling, though, like everyone else says, he could go back to Montreal for, similar kinds of money. We'll see what happens. But if they do decide to bring in someone on the cheap from the forward group in free agency, there's a couple of options there. One of the guys that popped into my head right away was depth winger / center Tyler Ennis. If I can find him here. That's my intermission song. Here he is. Okay, so yeah, he plays all forward positions. He had 37 points, 16 goals between Ottawa and Edmonton last season. Ever since he joined Toronto after leaving Minnesota, his career has rejuvenated a bit, and he's got some legs. So that might be a good option on the cheap for them. Then there's also, I'm thinking about, is it Tyler Pitlick? From the Philadelphia Flyers. He's more on the defensive end. Yes, I know, but those are just a couple of names. I thought I might throw out there. There's also maybe even Josh Levo, although he was hurt for a lot of the season. He only played 36 games. He potentially could put up 15 to even 20 goals in the right circumstance if he's not injured. As a third pairing sort of guy. He's got a great shot, by the way. So there's that to think of, and he's not too much of a defensive liability as well. And then we've already talked about the coach, right? There are some candidates out there. I doubt they bring back Boudreaux, but he's one. Babcock, too soon. And I just his personality and Ovi's clash. I just see that clashing too much. Then there's Gallant, who I think is the most sought after coach out there right now, and who's willing to pay him. But I think he would be a terrific fit. He'd be a terrific fit in a lot of places, but especially in Washington. He usually seems to have a big impact the first 2-3 years that he's with a team. So in any case, I would love to hear what you think about the Capitals and what their offseason moves might be, from coaching to goaltending to defense, and to maybe a tweak they might make on the forward group. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out, which will be about the Vegas Golden Knights. Thank you so much once again. Please be kind to each other out there, and I'll see you soon.